whether you are a really little one. So I can show you around, and then ladies can ask questions. If you want to have some tea or coffee, then please help yourself, and it'll be wonderful.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. Okay,
So
thanks.
come on over. The nerve center. It's really the receptionist at the box. She tells the dentist what to do. This is my puppy dog. She comes to work with me all the time. This is Chloe.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Chloe.
Are you going to come and say hi?
Hi. Who are all these people?
Hi. Everything.
So, pretty much, yeah, pretty much every day.
Here from my dental work.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. She was originally a very shy dog, but I thought, you know what? It's really been nice because sometimes I have really shy children, and then when I talk and if they like dogs, then I say, would you like to visit with them? But you have to be not too shy because you have to be gentle because you know she's going to get scared, and then they go, oh, okay, and then before you know it, they're making friends, which is kind of nice, right? But otherwise, she stays here, and then we go for walks. At lunch, she makes me go out for our lunch and go out for a walk, get fresh air, and then of course we have to do the same afterwards too. She's going to be 2 the end of October, so she's still quite young.
Oh, very young.
I looked at it. Real therapy dogs, you have to wait until they're at least the age of 2 because usually they're too rambunctious. She actually has hair. She doesn't. She has hair just like you. So this is our clinic area. We have semi-private rooms where we see our patients, and so come on in. We have little activities for kids to do. We have magnet boards, and we have a community center information area so that parents can read and we can tell each other about what the communities are doing and what's happening.
So nice.
And we like to celebrate our patients' birthdays and stuff.
Okay, the big picture, right?
Yeah, no problem.
I'm going to come here now. Seriously.
We also do educational programs, so we actually go to daycares and other places so that we can actually talk to the kids, sometimes to parents as well. So we really like to be involved in the community, and we like to
I
do
suggest
that.
to senior too.
Oh, right. There you go. That's good.
I noticed you have a screen in front of every single dental chair.
Well, this screen is basically for artwork. It's my digital artwork. So all it is pictures. No, photos. It's photos. So it's digital photos and stuff like this. We actually have a screen above. And what we have is that it's hooked up to Netflix. It's hooked up to the computer so that children can actually pick what kind of program they like. You know, like Pikachu or My Little Pony.
This is like the best
So-
dental office. I'm sold. Can I come?
You have to be under 18.
Oh.
Good girl.
She's
Sometimes, I know, it's not that many people come. So sometimes it's not possible to do the same things because sometimes children get anxious. So we want to make it more tolerable. So we offered other kinds of services. Sometimes we just use a laughing gas. Sometimes we use an oral sedative. If they do arrive for an oral sedative, they have a little room where they can sit with their mummies and daddies and drink the medicine, and that helps relax them. It doesn't put them to sleep, but just helps them relax. And then we go into the other room where we actually do some fillings. And then afterwards, they recover in the same room because they're not allowed to leave so soon. And when they're ready to go home, then their parents take them home. So we have a couple rooms like that that we also have available in the back.
So you people also treat adults and
Dr. Melanie is our orthodontist, and she helps make sure that everybody has a beautiful smile. These ladies are from Frog Hollow, and they've come to visit, I guess, businesses in the community, and want to see what we're all about.
Oh, well, welcome.
So
Nice to
yeah,
see everybody
perfect
here.
timing.
Excellent. That's great.
So Dr. Matson sees and looks after smiles and makes sure smiles are nice, and when people have problems with cleft lip or palate, or they have a lot of crowding or missing teeth, she helps with guide teeth and helps develop with the jaw. And so she sees children and adults, and she's not limited to special needs.
Oh, no. Right, we're coming here.
Yeah. Do you ladies have any other questions? Because I'm not sure I want to make sure that I'm meeting your needs as well, and is this what you expected?
How long have you been in the community?
Thank you for asking. This January, we're going to celebrate our 3rd year. Yeah. But I feel like I'm sort of been part of the community a little longer because my husband actually grew up in this community, and his mom and dad, or my in-laws, actually lived just off of Caslow.
Oh, nice.
So I've kind of seen this community grow for quite some time.
And I guess what inspired you to focus on, this population?
You mean in this location or my children's population?
Oh, you mentioned that you work with mainly tots and teens.
Yes.
And special needs. What kind of?
Oh, okay. You know what? It was an interesting thing. I really enjoyed working with children. I did not expect to go to specialize because I was an older dentist by the time I got there because I had done a degree in genetics, and so I thought when I finally got into dentistry that was going to be it. I didn't want to go and do more school. I felt like I was really far behind in working. And my poor father endured many jokes from my aunts and uncles saying that I am never going to work. I'm just going to bypass work and retire because I'm always in school. But I really enjoyed the challenge of working with kids. Their dentistry per se is not that difficult to do, but actually being able to communicate with kids and have that link where we're able to make a connection is important. And of course, it's a huge privilege to be able to have a parent say, I trust you with my child. And it's really neat watching children grow up. I'm old enough now, I hate to tell you that I'm actually starting to see some of my children's children. Yeah, so that's slowly happening too. And it's a wonderful thing to actually watch a child bloom. Because it's not just about teeth and dentistry, it's about, creating a warm felt environment and a relationship with people. I get to actually see them as a whole family unit, and I get to see them grow up. I happen to choose far away from home, to be honest, because I live in North Burnaby. But when I started looking and seeing where the specialists are and where the specialists aren't, I couldn't believe that there were no specialists in East Vancouver, or very few and far between. And I thought, wow, that's crazy, especially since it's such a great community. There's lots of families that live here, and people are really tight. So I've been really welcomed into this community. I do most of my grocery shopping here. When I have special events, I order from, the cake places that are around here, or order flowers from the florist that's down the road, because I think it's important to support each other as a small business as well. But also I get a great sense of community, which is really neat considering we live in a real big city, and yet I go walking down the street and I get invited to a block party because, they go, oh, if you got nothing to do, come and visit. And that's kind of the sense that I get in East Vancouver, so I think that's really great. Many of my colleagues, when I told them initially I was moving to East Vancouver, they looked at me and said, I thought I was crazy. I should be on the west side, where the money is, right? Or something. And it's like, well, actually, I want to be where the heart is. So, yeah. I'm happy to run 3 chairs, which is plenty, because I'd rather spend more time with my patients than kind of have the other kind of practice. And so I built it with enough space for 2 people to work simultaneously. So, and because I'm older, I know that space it's very difficult to move practices because practices are expensive to build. So I'd rather start with more than I need and grow into it rather than having to think, how am I going to create more space or move? Because that becomes more costly in the long run.
But even now, it would be very costly for you too, right?
Well, of course, it's part of business, right?
Yeah.
So I wear 2
hoping for the long run.
Yeah, exactly. It takes time to build up, and I wear 2 hats. The one hat that I wear is that of a professional that gives a service and that looks after patients. The other hat that I wear is that of a business person, because for that I know that I'm responsible to make sure that everything works. So one of the things that I take seriously is that my staff have to be well paid for and looked after, right? If I mismanage things, then they're going to suffer. That's not right. You'll find that I'm very rarely miss work, because if I don't work, not only do patients, but then my staff don't work, and they're counting on that because that's how they pay for their home lives and families and mortgages and everything else too.
But you have more gray hair.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why we get dyes, and that's why I diet. But that's okay. That's part of that's just the nature of it, right? And I'm really fortunate that I'm doing something that I really like.
Oh yeah.
Even if that means I work a little longer. It's,
Definitely.
you know, when you are out in your work world, if you do it because you like to do it, it makes it a little bit easier because we spend a lot of time at work, right? And we do lots of things for our families because we just want to make sure our families are well looked after and don't struggle as much as we struggled, right? My parents were immigrants and they came to this country, and so I'm first generation. I was born here. But
and your parents are from?
My parents happen to be from Germany.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and the goal of every parent is to hopefully make the next generation have it easier.
That's great. I just feel like I want to work for you and I'm not a dentist.
Well, we have lots of roles where I have people, and each one is just as important. The dentist isn't the most important one because it's just like clocks and a clock mechanism with all the cogs. Doesn't matter what size, the smallest cog, if that's missing, the clock doesn't work. So everybody's really important. Those,
Really want you to be my boss?
So,
Yeah, too old to get any more training from me. Like, otherwise, I would love to.
How do you make the kids love to come back? 'Cause
well, you know what? Sometimes you do things that are hard work, and sometimes you have crying, right? I mean, even as an adult, when you go and get something done, you know in your head, you go, oh gee, I don't want to do this, but I know it's good for me, so I gotta suck it up and do it. Kids are gonna express themselves, right? And sometimes there's tears and sometimes there's other things. So that's why we have, you know, lots of tell, show, do, lots of talking. Lots of times we encourage, especially for young ones that are really shy or that have autism, just to come in and visit and then leave, do nothing. Because the more often you come and are exposed, the more comforting the environment can become, right? And I have an open door policy. I basically tell everybody from the neighborhood, if your child doesn't need an appointment, just come in, have a cup of coffee. It's not as good as Laughing Bean. Laughing Bean is better, I know. But at least the more exposure they get that is positive, then it's also better because it's a little bit more friendlier, right? And it is so endearing when you have had to do something where it's a big struggle, like somebody could have a big abscess and you have to, medically, you have to take this out. And there's tears and struggles and everything else. And it's wonderful enough when you do that, then suddenly that little child turns around and looks at you and gives you a hug afterwards and says, thank you. But in the meantime, you know, I'm sweating and I'm exhausted, right? But, you know, if there's a sense that, you know, you're caring about it and you care about somebody, even when you're doing something tough. But then you also have other things. There's sedation. We do take some kids for general anesthesia because sometimes a sedative isn't going to help. So there's other options, and sometimes under emergencies, you have to do things that you just got to do. You know what? It becomes really smooth because we pick the right patients for the right things. Because you kind of get a sense right off the bat going, uh-oh, this isn't going to work. And so then you need to get gently guide, because the interesting thing is I work not only with children, who are my patients, or my clients, whichever way you want to say it, but I also have to try to ensure that the parents are happy. And sometimes that's harder than the child, because it's parental expectations. And it's like, well, I don't ever want my child to cry, and I'm going, I don't know if I can do this, right? And so, you know what, I'm still learning, because sometimes I try my best to go out of my way to do the right thing, but there's a conflict with the parent, and then the parent gets mad at you, and it's like, oh, you know, I guess on hindsight, I should have negotiated this and this, or done whatever, right? But that's always, and it's different too, because as our generations are changing, there's many generations that are here, you know, right from, you know, baby boomers to, you know, millennials or whatever. People's expectation and form of communication is different too. So it keeps you on your toes. You always sort of have to think of how do I explain this and how do I manage this?
So you wear more than two hats.
It's part of my dentistry, I guess. Being a human being, I guess, multifaceted.